First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, I know I say this every time, but appreciate you joining us, whether you're watching on our social media channels, on our apps, or a website, or watching live or afterward. Thanks for doing so. Lots of great conversations that we get to have here. Right now, though, we're going to be talking about some research, some opinions, some polls. What do Pacific Northwesterners, that is Oregon and Washington, what do people think about Gen Z in the workplace? I'm sure there are going to be a lot of opinions of your own expressed on social media as we go through this, but as always, we have joining us right now John Horvick from DHM Research, and always love having John on here to talk about the research that you do in these polls and just finding out actual data, what people are actually thinking. But this one is a really interesting one.
Yeah, there's been always interest in generations. There's always a conversation about how older people feel about younger people feel about older people. There's a lot of stereotypes. Some of those stereotypes persist across time, even from generation to generation. It's sort of always young people are they don't work as hard, or they don't respect their elders as much. So some of those stories are sort of always the case. And there's some things that are really different. Times change and people respond to different economies, different technologies, just different desires. And there's been a lot of talk about Gen Z. So we wanted to talk directly to Gen Z and specifically about work. And some other experiences too, but work is a key component of it. So we reached out to 600 Gen Z residents in Oregon and Washington, asked how their lives are going, asked about what they're looking for in the workplace, and to let them tell us what's going on.
Yeah, which is why, again, going back to these polls, like this is the data. This is what people are thinking, and over 600 people. So I imagine that's across a lot of different demographics and geography, and
Yeah, that's right. Across, we're real careful to make sure we're talking the right proportions of men and women, and rural and urban, and those with a degree and without a degree, and all that sort of stuff, to make sure we have a good representative look at what this generation is thinking and feeling.
And let's hear it. Let's start off with this. Where do we want to start with it?
Well, one of the interesting things, and part of what spurred this research, is in a previous survey, we had asked folks, hey, what do you think about people in different generations? Do you feel warmly or coolly towards them? And it was really clear that pretty much every generation felt coolly, that not positive impressions of Gen Z. And so that was like, hey, let's talk to Gen Z themselves and understand what's going on for them. And one thing that stands out is that, they're feeling pretty stressed. And there's real reasons for that. About 7 out of 10 said that they're worried about their personal finances, being able to, make their rent, pay their bills, pay off their college loans, whatever it might be. So that's one thing. And that's much, much higher than, say, those who are 65 and older. About 4 times as many young people are telling us, boy, I'm really stressed about my finances. The other thing they tell us is that just, personally, they are experiencing a lot of anxiety. So there's different ways to ask this question, but some things that stood out in our survey is about 64% say that they're feeling nervous or anxious most days. They're having trouble relaxing. They about half say that they feel depressed or hopeless half the time. And there is a lot in the world that can make people feel that way. I think it's also true that Gen Z is more willing to express how they're feeling than previous generations. And the reason we thought this was important for the context of this survey is that it's pretty clear that there's a change in what this generation not only might feel, but what they expect from their employer. So overwhelmingly, we heard in the survey that they expect their employer to be supportive around mental health needs and concerns in the workplace. And that's part of like what we want to share with the community, share with you, is that whether you maybe agree or disagree that young people should feel this way, if you're an employer, if you're working with young people, this is the lay of the land. This is the expectation that they're telling us that they have, and they're telling us also what their needs are. And different businesses, different individuals can react to that differently.
Yeah.
But this is the world we're working in right now.
And I don't know if this factors in here. Yeah, some of what you were just talking about too. Yeah, taking a look at this, some of the numbers. As you mentioned, from an employer standpoint, agree or disagree. That's how people are feeling. This is how this generation feels.
yeah, if you're employing young people, odds are most of them are going to share with you that they're pretty anxious about things, that they feel depressed. Half of young people are saying that they're depressed, and I think what young people in the survey are also telling us is, hey, this isn't something we expect to deal with on our own, but this is something that we expect our employers to help us manage. And so if you're in HR, or if you're hiring, understanding what this generation of in the workforce is expecting from their employers can help you make decisions about how to operate.
Yeah, half with that depressed or hopeless 5 times or more in the past 2 weeks. I mean, that seems
Yeah,
like a really high number.
it does seem like a really high number, and this is where it's really tricky with the data. Like, I think we should take their concerns seriously. Absolutely. And also, it's hard to know in the past, is this an increase in feelings of depression, or is this an increase in people's willingness to be honest about how they're feeling? And that's just really, this is hard to know that, but it's a possibility that these feelings haven't increased over time, but their willingness to express them has. And I can't say for sure which one it is, but I think we ought to take what they're telling us seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going through the data here and seeing this is how they felt, this is how they feel, and yeah, I think that is an interesting factor too. Whether that's something that just people are more willing to talk about it, whether that was the same thing for the previous generations, everybody felt depressed, or or
Yeah.
there's something different here that's happening.
One of the other big stereotypes about Gen Z is, and it's Gen Z specifically, but it's also been the case that older generations have felt this way about younger generations, for millennia, that they just don't want to work hard anymore. And through COVID and the immediate days after that, there was lots of talk of like quiet quitting or the Great Resignation. And I got to tell you, I just don't see that in what they're telling us. And so what we're hearing from young people is things that matter to them, getting paid, right? I
Yeah.
think there's sometimes an assumption that young people are just working for social causes or for sort of emotional benefits. And the number one reason that they say that if you look for a job, stick to a job, is how much are you going to pay me? It's cash money. And I think that cuts against sort of some perceptions of what young people value today. The other thing is that they tell us that they're working hard, that they're not just looking for a job where they can pay their bills and sort of leave things behind them. About a third to 40% say that I'm really looking to take leadership positions. I'm really working hard, willing to work overtime to get ahead. Now, that's not a majority, but that's a big chunk of the young generation. And the rest of them are saying, I am working to have a good quality life of sort of work and my personal life, but they're not slacking. They're not saying that they're just there to cash that paycheck. So most young people tell us that they want to earn a good living. They want to have a job that they respect. About 30% say I'm really want to strive and find a leadership position. And that's sort of, yeah, so 37% they're saying that they're willing to work overtime for career advancement. 49% say that they work hard but want that work-life balance. And it's just 14 say they only work to pay the bills. And you know people have different perceptions, and people sometimes exaggerate when they talk about different groups of people, but I think this cuts across the idea that these are the quiet quitters, or that they're part of the Great Resignation, or they're not willing to put in the time.
Yeah.
They tell us that they want to have balance, but they want to work hard. A number of them are looking to advance, and yes, some are just putting in the time.
Right. Which I wonder, compared to some of the other generations, what their actual feelings might be with some of that. I mean, because work-life balance doesn't seem like, especially now, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing,
Yeah.
that we all want. Versus, I don't think that necessarily, but I mean, this is all opinion, but I don't think that means you're not a hard worker, because you want to be able to balance your life and not be, stressed out and heart attack at 45.
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, really, really interesting seeing here how they feel about that. And so I'm assuming we don't have that data on the other generations, but maybe that's something for another time.
That is something for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everyone's going to be a leader, and so that 37% saying that they look into work overtime to try to find leadership opportunities. if just sort of by definition, right? That's never going to be 90% or 100%. So, hey, there are some young people out there who are looking for that opportunity. Now, I work on a lot of political work, and so maybe I'll just sort of throw in this for conversation. When we look at people's political identities, do they identify as liberal or conservative, or do they vote more as a Democrat or Republican? It is those who identify as conservatives, those who say that they vote as Republicans, were significantly more likely to say that they're going to want to seek leadership positions. So people can interpret that the ways that interest them, but that is something that's pretty clear in the data. Those folks who lean more conservative, more right, were the ones who said, "Hey, yeah, sign me up for leadership, sign me up for overtime."
Interesting, the crossover between those two. And again, for those joining, I know I say it a lot, but this is just analyzing data here. So everybody can have their opinions on it, but this is presenting what this poll research showed. What was it? Something else here? I'm not sure what was next that you wanted to bring up on this, but I mean, this data is really interesting.
So if you go to the next sort of graphic,
the next one, yeah.
Greg, this one would surprise me. And I think it surprised the folks that we've been talking to. So we asked Gen Z, where are you getting information, and where are you actively seeking information about job opportunities? If you're going to switch jobs or find a new career or get that first job, where are you looking?
Yeah.
And when we've talked to employers, when they say, hey, where are you looking for young people? And it's a lot of the traditional sources, including specifically LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a great source for professional job opportunities, and it's just not where Gen Z is looking. We hear a lot about TikTok, and we think of TikTok sometimes as viral videos and sort of clever videos that people put together. But Gen Z say it's also a place I'm looking for work opportunities. And on the one hand, to me, that makes sense, right? They're getting their entertainment and their social media through there. Why wouldn't they also get work opportunities there? But I'm confident that's not where employers are. Many employers are active in recruiting the next workforce. And there's a couple of things I think that are happening here. One, it's generally just where young people are going. It's where they're spending their time online, and it's a go-to source for them in a way that different media platforms have been for older generations. The other is that the information, the credibility of information that young people have, those first-person narratives are just really crucial. They're very can see past sort of the slick marketing that had been done in the past. You want to hear directly from people, and TikTok really offers that credibility, that first-person storytelling that young folks have grown up with, that they engage with themselves in creation. And so if you're an employer out there looking for young people, assume that a good number of them want to work hard. Some of them want to achieve leadership positions, but they're expecting some mental health support in the office and workplace. And if you want to find them, speak authentically, have your current team members speak authentically through a channel like TikTok. The world's changing, and this is what Gen Z is telling us that they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's where they're at. That's the platform that they're on. That's what they grew up with. I mean, that shows just what a meteoric rise. I mean, not meteoric. It's been huge for a long time. It's been basically the world's largest social media channel, but it wasn't that long ago that TikTok didn't exist, and just now that shows how important, that it really is to everything.
As a Gen Xer myself, I'm a TikTok illiterate, so this is probably some evidence for me that I gotta figure this out.
We are recording one right after this, so but yeah. I mean, it does. It just shows. I think looking at it, especially from that workplace idea, that's where it's not LinkedIn. It's not LinkedIn where they're going to be necessarily, and that's nothing against LinkedIn, but this is just. That's where they are. And that's, again, looking at the data. That's why when you present these things, I really like it, because it's not like, you can you can have your opinions one way or another, but here's what they said. This is what their opinions are. So fascinating, really interesting stuff on this one. Anything else that you want to add in?
Just that we did this research, DHM Research did this with our partners over at Quinn Thomas. And if you want to find the full report, you can go to quinnthomas.com and you can find it there. But we did this one in partnership with them.
Nice. Well, really, really, again, interesting. They're always interesting every time that you're on here. Any of the polls and any of the results that you have here to talk about it, and that's why I think for people who are in the comments too, feel free to comment on how you feel about it. But that's where it's at. This is what people are feeling, and that's how they're thinking. So always great. Well, John, thank you very much for spending some time. I'll always appreciate having you on here, and for all of your research too. You mentioned the Quinn Thomas one, but dhmresearch.com.
DHMresearch.com. We have lots and lots of data, past reports on there. I encourage you to check it out. And of course, you can always give me a holler over at Twitter at Horvick. Happy to engage.
Nice. Well, and for everybody watching, thank you for joining us. This is Fox 12 Now. We're on here every weekday. We start at 1 p.m. and then we have other things that happen throughout the afternoon, like this, where we get to have a conversation about finding out how Gen Z feels. And there's lots more that you can follow along on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook channel, and we'll have Fox 12 Now on TikTok. We got to work on that. And then, but we're also on our apps and our website. So lots of places to find the interviews that we get to have. So that's it. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody, for watching. This is Fox 12 Now.